It's like the most important thing about. I'll elaborate. The vocal control thing is hugely important, and I've been singing a lot longer than I've been acting. I started taking lessons at 7 back in Missouri, where I'm from, and that turned into theater acting. And then a couple of years later, I started doing on-camera stuff and moved to LA. And then voice acting didn't come until I was 11 or 12 years old, and it just sort of happened by accident because I was sent out on some auditions because I was already going out for TV and film stuff and got good reception, and I booked a radio show called Adventures in Odyssey that I ended up working on for 5 years and was like very good on the job training. But to answer your second question, the aspect of like all the vocal training and vocal control, it was hugely important for me, not just early on when I was starting, but when my voice changed. I was in my vocal teacher's studio 2 or 3 times a week, every week, trying to keep the range as wide as possible and then gain back more notes on the top that I had lost. Because it's like a hard reset. It's like factory resetting your vocal cords to a new operating system, and it completely throws you off, especially when I was working on 3 different shows where I had to play kids anywhere from 8 to 12 years old at 15, and my voice was changing. And that led to a lot of magnified teenage angst and stress. But because I was doing singing training and keeping up with it, it helped me stay fresh with keep doing those younger voices, and that's why I can still sound like this. Because I'm constantly practicing singing, especially now that I'm singing in the studio so often for my record and for Steven. Over here on the right, we have.
What are some of your musical influences? What do you listen to?
Yeah.
What floats your boat?
My musical influences. For my stuff, I'm really all over the place. My favorite band of all time is Muse. Just everything they've ever recorded. You know how some people are like Beatle heads and they know everything there is to know about the Beatles? I'm that way with Muse. 21 Pilots became a huge influence about 3 years ago, right after Vessel came out, and I started following them around LA to different shows, and it got me. That was like my gateway to hip hop too. Hip hop is a big inspiration. Kendrick Lamar, Kanye West, Isaiah Rashad, J. Cole, and my music has sort of landed in the middle of the alt rock influence that I got from harder stuff like My Chemical Romance and Muse. It's a little bit scene, a little bit punkish, and then the hip hop stuff of the Eminems and the Kendricks of the world, and then there's a very theatrical aspect that is like one part Panic at the Disco and 21 Pilots and one part like musical theater, and that's the triangle in which my sound lives now. It took me 2 years and a unhealthy amount of my own personal money to find that out with studio time and all that. But entirely worth it. It's been the most personal and most enjoyable thing I've ever worked on in my career so far is this album that I'm putting out. You had a question right here.
Oh yeah. Do you have any characters or actors that inspired you to get into what you're doing now? Like any specific characters, anime, cartoon wise?
Totally. I grew up watching early 2000s Cartoon Network. So stuff like Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab and Billy and Mandy. My absolute favorite was Codename Kids Next Door, which I adored. And number 4 was my favorite. Funny story, actually. I was in the lobby, or the green room for Steven Universe a couple of years ago, and the guy who plays Lion and does animal noises and creature noises for pretty much every voiceover-related project in town. His name is Dee Bradley Baker. Some of you might have heard of him. He's one of the big guys for VO. And we're just chatting in the green room, and it's like, I grew up on that early Cartoon Network stuff. Codename Kids Next Door was my absolute favorite. He's like, oh yeah, I was number 4. And then slips into the high-pitched British accent, whiny voice, and I was gobsmacked. Because this is one of my early inspirations, not the person, but the character, talking to me in front of me. And that's happened a lot with guys like Jess Harnell and Jim Cummings that I got to work with early on. And ran into at different places in my career, and I can now call them friends because we've worked together for so long. It's for voiceover specifically. It's been really cool to be able to go to bat with the legends like that on the next microphone. On camera, I'm super inspired by people like Gary Oldman, who are chameleons that just slip into every role they do. Did anybody see Darkest Hour? It's an incredible performance. It takes so much out of you as a person to put yourself into someone else's shoes so deeply and so with so much truth to your performance. People like DiCaprio, Gary Oldman, Daniel Day-Lewis, they're really good at that. And it's interesting to watch their careers, specifically for me, because like I have a lot of actors and actresses that I like Donald Glover or Jessica Chastain. But guys like DiCaprio and Oldman, they started in similar positions to me. They were young men who started by playing these like teenage boy, like fresh-faced roles, and then they might have done some action movies, and then they aged gracefully into these like way more character-y roles where they could play things like Winston Churchill, like Gary Oldman did, or his role in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, just different things that they couldn't have done years ago, but they adjusted to. And I'm on a bit of a tangent, but it's interesting to watch people's careers evolve, and I'm very much ear to the ground on stuff like that because it inspires me more. Anyone? See, we haven't heard from you yet. From Missouri to LA, you said? Yeah, it's a gradual process, and I had a lot of good fortune that were like signs to point my family to come out west. But it started, with a genuine interest. I was the one pushing. So I wasn't good at sports, and I loved singing, and I was very small, and I wanted to perform, and I'd been like that since I was 4 or 5, and my parents put me in singing lessons, and then where I was taking the singing lessons, they were putting on a production of The Music Man, and they encouraged me to audition for that. And it started like that, friends telling my parents, like, hey, there's this role in this play, you should audition, and I ended up doing 9 or 10 productions within just a couple of years in St. Louis because I really got addicted to it. And at a certain point, I had joined the chorus at the big theater, the Muni, the St. Louis Muni in St. Louis. It's like baby steps, like graduating like to the next grade almost. It's like school. The next step after that was to get an agent in St. Louis, of which there were only like 2 or 3. And I got lucky. I got a grocery store commercial, and then a movie came through town, which almost never happens in Missouri. And there was one scene that they needed a kid my age, and every one of my friends that was an actor, dozens and dozens auditioned for it, and I got lucky. I got the role. The scene got deleted, but I got to work with Clayne Crawford and Eric Roberts on like a real film set, and it was like midnight. We were walking off the set, and I'm 8 years old and bouncing off the walls. Like, Mom, I have to do more of this. I want to do more of this. And they're like, well, we live in Missouri, so good luck with that. And I badgered her over 6 months, both of my parents. And eventually, they're like, you know what? We'll go out there. We'll see what the agents say, and if they shut us down, then at least we tried, and you won't be thinking, what could have been. And I ended up in 2007 taking 2 trips out here to like get our feet wet, and I got really warm responses from agencies because I had developed that resume back in Missouri. So this is all a roundabout way of saying, like, if you're looking at breaking into the LA market, you have to become the big fish in whatever small pond you start in. So if you're here in Tucson, or if you're in Seattle, or wherever it is, you have to gain some sort of experience to arm you for the culture shock that is Los Angeles and that is Hollywood. It definitely is an uphill battle for anybody that gets there, so you want to give yourself as much of an in and a foothold to begin with from day one as possible. Does that make sense? Bueller. What's that? Can Steven be poofed? This is a Rebecca question, and I get asked it a lot, and I don't know. I don't know what the verdict is on that, and I'm sort of afraid to ask because there's certain Steven questions. Like I'll bother Rebecca all day. Like, hey, what's this about the diamonds? Like, where do they come from? I'll ask her all sorts of lore questions. Some of which she's like, I don't know that yet. Let me get back to you. But with Steven questions, I try to avoid some of them because I feel like if I'm playing Steven, I shouldn't know certain things about Steven, and Steven doesn't know if he can be poofed or not. So that's one thing that I'm sort of afraid to ask for fear of what I'll find out. But it's a very good question.
So Steven Universe has some amazing messages. Like one of the things I really love is Steven cries all the time. He
Right.
cries when he's happy, he cries when he's sad, he cries when he's excited. And that's like great to show like young kids and stuff like that. But like, you know, men can cry is so great. What messages like really resonate with you that they have in the show?
The whole arc with Stefani and Garnet with Here Comes a Thought personally resonates with me, just given my life experience with things like that. And also, the relationship between Lapis and Jasper was really interesting to me. Alone at Sea was an episode that was really tough to do because it reminded me of some things just in my life that rang true. And Steven Universe does that a lot, and that's a blessing to be able to work on a show that provides those moments not just for the viewers but for the people working on it. I know for a fact that pretty much all of the main cast have like personal anecdotes from the show that have affected them deeply. Michaela Dietz talks about Amethyst's arc of not knowing where her place is in the world and where she came from, and Michaela's adopted in real life and has talked about extensively like how similar she feels to Amethyst in that situation and coming from that background. And, Rebecca has a knack of like really finding those kinds of things in the characters and in us, and sort of curving the characters' arcs in that direction slightly enough that it's not like the main featured thing, but it's enough that it makes us feel much closer to our characters. I can tell you that me, Estelle, Dee Dee, Michaela were like basically our characters in real life to some extent, some more than others, but it's uncanny how good Rebecca and the team are at casting. I don't see it ever happening. If it hasn't happened yet. No, I really hope it does. I just hope it's like they get their own like full episode dedicated to it, It's not just like a spur of the moment thing that you see for a second and it doesn't talk. I hope it's like gets its due time. Right here.
Like for a long time, Opal?
Right. I mean, Opal has appeared many times, but at first it was very mysterious, which I think was good at the beginning. Fusion is this very mysterious thing, and you don't want to reveal too much of your hand, but I'm glad she's come back a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, what's your favorite fusion?
Sardonyx.
Yes!
Faux show. Not a Steven fusion, but I just love everything about her. The whole like broadcast shtick and like a little bit of an ego, but not like a ton. The color scheme is really awesome. The hammer's cool, and the way she was introduced with the Pearl Garnet relationship was really cool too, from a writer's standpoint. Saw a hand over here. Yeah.
How long were you at the studio, getting voices out? Because I doubt that the voice that you did down the first draft.
Yeah, I mean, if we're running a scene with other actors in the booth, then we run the scene a few times, we make notes on it, we run it again, maybe we'll run it one or two more times, and then we'll do pickups of individual lines where, Steven's got to say, "Hey Garnet," I'll do, "Hey Garnet, hey Garnet, hey Garnet," like three slightly different versions of the same thing just to give them variety. Or if she has a note, if it's like, Steven's more dejected here, it's, I give her three of her being Rebecca because she's our director these days. I give her three versions of that. And in total, the day it's really only a half-day session. Lately, they've been 4 hours because we've been working on a bunch of stuff, but when we were in our normal groove for a while there, it was like 2.5 hours for me, and then they would bring somebody else in. But lately, I've been in by myself, just knocking out a bunch of stuff, so it's been the full 4 hours that they book you for. Yeah, voiceover's pretty quick, because if you go for too long, you blow your voice out, and then you can't do anything else for another couple days, so it becomes a hazard. Let's see. I'll get to you both. Start with you.
This is more of a kooky question, but what was your reaction when you saw the fandom theorizing that Onion was pregnant?
Well, that was canon, so I was surprised. Onion is a diamond. We just don't know which one yet. I play Onion, side note, which I had this weird like obsession with him ever since Rebecca gave me that task. He's gonna get everybody one day. He's just got something planned.
He's gonna get away.
My little moped stealing Onion.
So, do you remember when Sugalite was on there? Were you able to meet Nicki Minaj?
No, I'm really sad. I'm a big hip hop fan, like I said. Now I have an in whenever I see her next and be like, hey, we're on my show. Hopefully try to start a conversation for more than 5 seconds. But no, she recorded over the phone from the East Coast, so. Yeah. We have a lot of people that are fans that are, big in music and in theater. It's cool. Billy Bob Thornton, I mean, the cast and I have become really good friends over the past few months because we met him at a convention, and his daughter was a huge fan, and he is also a huge fan. He's seen every episode like multiple times, and we've been to dinner with him, and he's a really cool guy. T-Pain's a big fan of the show, which is cool. Chance the Rapper's a big fan. It's cool to see that. Radio?
Speaking of stress on the voice and recording, like what was the hardest like part you had the most emotional with, like hardest recording?
Oh man, the Stevens one, like I said, was difficult. Voicing 4 characters for an entire episode in one session was strenuous. There have been some episodes that are more action-packed than others. I'd say one that I remember being particularly difficult was Coach Steven, not necessarily because of the episode, but because of the song. My voice was like in the middle of changing during that, and we had to like really mess with the range, and I had to like do a lot of falsetto stuff, and I was really self-conscious about it, and it came out okay, but it was definitely a stressful time just around that clump of episodes. Anyone? Yeah.
I was wondering, what kind of things do you do to exercise your voice healthy, keep it ready?
Yeah. I have a vocal warm-up that I do. Sometimes it's on a CD from my vocal teacher if we were like particularly working on something. Sometimes I just use like a standard tenor one from YouTube if I'm in a pinch. So I do that. Don't necessarily finish it all the time because the drive isn't long enough, but just do as much as I can, and then I drink a lot of tea. And my voice is particularly like sensitive to mucus and the elements and all that, so I have like a treasure trove of vocal remedies. There's this little store in LA that specializes in just selling singers and voice actors and announcers and stuff these like weird voodoo vocal fixes. So I have Manuka honey, which is like a superfood from New Zealand that's great for your throat. This stuff called Gargle Away. It's this weird like spicy powder that you gargle, and it makes all the mucus go away in your throat. There's like vocal sprays, all these special lozenges, and I don't use all of it at once, but the one thing that the cat is out of the bag on in voice acting is this thing called Ninjan Pepa Koa. It's this Chinese like black honey and loquat syrup, and it's like the consistency is like molasses. It's very thick and very sugary. Almost has like a little bit of like a menthol cooling thing in your throat. And Fred Tatascore, you guys heard of him? He's a voice actor. He's a total legend. He's been working for decades. He discovered it first at some like Chinese herbal remedy shop, and started bringing it around to all these sessions and using it. And people were like, "Oh, Fred, what is that weird black goop you're using?" He's like, "Oh, it's just my goop that I use for my voice." So they started calling it Fred juice. And even now today, it's sold everywhere in LA, I should say. And it goes by the proper Chinese name. It's still, in the voiceover circles, it's Fred juice, because it does work. It's Nin Jiang Pe Pa Koa. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but phonetically, that's what it is. Just look up like Chinese loquat syrup, and you'll probably find it. It's in like the syrup itself is black, but it's like a red orangish packaging. It comes in bottles and little. I wish I had it with me. I left it in my hotel because I'm going to use it for my concert tonight. it's a lifesaver. It coats your vocal cords so that you don't strain them too much. It's like a protective layer in addition to soothing. Yeah, pretty much from anything. It's great. I'm like a walking advertisement for this stuff. You had a question, right?
Yes. What character have you played that you felt like was a disconnection to?
I mean, it's hard to pick anyone other than Steven, just because I've never been able to spend this amount of time with this amount of frequency with a character. So it's very much like permanently imprinted in my brain and lives there, which is a really cool thing. I've played other characters that have, like Adventures in Odyssey, I played my character for 5 years, but that was, 2 or 3 sessions a year. Where Steven, one year we had like 40 or 50 sessions working on, season 2 and 3. And being able to be like that involved, especially as the main character on a show, and having, most importantly, a really strong character development arc and writing behind the character, it forces you to get really close with it. Even though I really love diving into stuff like that, it's been unprecedented for me so far. So it's definitely Steven. Yeah, take your glasses off.
Yeah, this is a serious question.
Glasses imply it's not serious?
It's very serious. How do you feel about Teen Titans Go and it taking up 80% of Cartoon Network's schedule, man?
I have a serious answer for you.
I'll put the glass.
The Teen Titans Go, I love the original Teen Titans, so I support it. I'm not allowed to publicly comment on airing stuff because we don't have control and Rebecca doesn't have control of any of that. I was actually just talking to her about that recently. But it's mistaken in a lot of circles that we control the airing schedule. We say when Steven Universe doesn't air when we go on hiatus, and that's in Atlanta. We just make cartoons and have fun. So yeah, it's cool though. I know a couple of the voice actors. Greg Sipes has been really fun to hang out with at conventions before. Yeah.
As a theater person, someone who is musically inclined, what are your favorite musicals?
Music Man has a special place in my heart because it was the first one I did. But I went to see Hamilton and it changed my life. Excuse me. Yeah, I went in blind. I hadn't listened to the soundtrack, and my mom and a bunch of her friends got tickets in LA. I was like, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm just going to go in and experience it. And I'm a huge history junkie. And it was unlike anything else. My acting mentor, he grew up, he went to NYU theater school and spent over a decade in the New York theater scene, working on Broadway, off Broadway. He said Hamilton's the best show he's ever seen. And that's a very high compliment. But it's revolutionary, and Lin-Manuel's musical style is so unique. It inspired one of the interlude tracks that I finished in the late goings of writing the album. It's a musical theater style, slightly Lin-Manuel inspired duet with a Steven Universe cast member, but I'm not saying who yet. But they are featuring on the album, which is really exciting. You have a question in the back? Oh, you're just fixing your hair. No worries. We haven't heard from you yet.
What's your favorite Steven voice?
My favorite Steven line? This changes daily. That's unusual! That's a classic. If you need a great actor, you've come to the right guy! The crappy Italian accent is a staple of Steven Universe. Which came about because Rebecca found out I had been taking Italian classes and spoke it semi-fluently, and she's like, oh, well, I can use that. So at the end of Steven the Stevens, I do the arrivederci and then poof away. There's if you need a great actor, you come to the right guy. There's the whole Peter Pizzapopoulos thing when they're searching around the carnival. That was because of that. So anytime I get to do that stuff is a gift. You had a question, yeah?
Yes. Steven, what was your first impression of
I thought he was super lovable and goofy and a little bit quirky, because that's how they described how they wanted the reads to be. They wanted something off the wall and willing to get really weird with stuff, and that was where I started with it. Did not know how much it would grow at the time, but it was a really pretty quirky show when we started, and then it became this phenomenon as we went on, and I had no idea what I was in for, but I'm very glad that it did. Anyone? Let's see. Right here. I'll come back to you.
So how much does your voice acting and acting kind of support each other as far as technique?
Sure.
What came first?
The acting came first because of the singing, and I came from the theater background and then did film, which is honestly just as much of an adjustment as voice acting to film. Excuse me. I'd say there's a lot of crossover between the skill sets, but they're a lot more different than people would think. Voice acting is very sterile sometimes and technical and precise. Oftentimes you're not there with any of your co-stars. You're recording lines by yourself, and you have to be able to inject genuine emotion into a line 3 times in a row, said differently each time by yourself in a cold studio room, which is, for some people, it comes more naturally. I feel that way about myself, and then for some people, on camera stuff comes more naturally because it's genuine being with your facial expression and your body. And it's not channeling all that into one outlet, which is a little bit unnatural actually. And I find that the voice acting comes a little more naturally, and relaxing and being present on camera sometimes I have to check myself to get back into that place. There's definitely crossover with the skill set of getting into character and being genuine, but the way that you output it is different, if that makes sense. I do?
What's your favorite meme?
My favorite meme? I could pick whatever flavor of the month dank meme that is floating around right now. However, Rickroll will always be a classic because it's the one meme. Name one other meme besides Rickrolling that will not die.
Surprise.
Well, you have to choose that. Cartoon Network, Rickroll, everyone at the big Macy's parade.
Shoot the Woo been dead for 7 years, bro.
Oh,
It's alive in my heart too, but these are not things we can publicly express. I'm like a total dork for not just memes, but mimetic theory. If I was gonna go to college, I would one of the things I would heavily consider studying is sociology with a focus on modern humor and how it's become way more than just funny pictures we share on the internet and why certain things are funny. There have been panels, and I won't make this one of them, that have devolved into a college professor's meme lecture with active engagement from the people in the crowd. And we were talking about theory of memes just because it fascinates me so much. We did have a meme panel one time at MomoCon in Atlanta where me and, do you guys know MK Atwood on YouTube? She made Pearl's Secret Rap Career and now Steven's Secret Rap Career and a bunch of other Steven meme videos. Well, Cartoon Network hired her to make memes because she's so good at it. So there is a career in this stuff now. And we had an educational panel for Dee Dee because Dee Dee at the time, did not understand memes. And I tried to show her memes, and I showed her Robbie Rotten, to start, which was a terrible idea. Because that's not funny unless you've been, brainwashed by the internet for 8 years or more. So, we basically, Mackenzie prepared this, curriculum for Dee Dee, complete with a video presentation on a giant screen. And she went through and, demonstrated certain memes. For example, Shooting Star, the da-da-da-da. So she played a regular one, and then she played the Steven theme one that she made to sort of translate it into terms that were more familiar to her. And it was, by the end of the panel, she was, laughing a ton and it was sort of in on the joke, but it was so interesting to see this room. It was a stacked panel. There were 500 people in this panel room. And everyone, because it's an anime convention, everyone is laughing so hard at these memes. and she's the only one that doesn't understand what's going on. It's this weird language of like our generation that has come about with our humor, and it's very like almost anti-humor, and somebody called it neo-Dadaism, which is a total thing, but I think that's fascinating. And it was a very, very fun panel because we just looked at memes and talked about why they're funny. Rant over. Yes?
It really sounds like a pliable episode of Steven Universe. Steven tries to tell a girl about memes.
Totally. It was really like life imitates art. By the way, if you want to watch that panel, it's on YouTube in full, and it is the best panel I've ever done. That I've been a part of, mostly because of Mackenzie and Dee Dee. So check it out. Did you have another question?
Something to add to that about Steven Universe and this memes and stuff. But did you see the meme that originated from Steven Universe with Cartoon Network photoshopped baby Steven into Rose's arms? And the fandom went ballistic, and they started photoshopping baby Steven into all sorts of like.
What? I did not see that.
It was like one where it's like we're gonna like show all the episodes that contain plots so everybody can catch up, and the whole fandom freaked out because like it was Rose, but she's singing this one song, but they photoshopped out the microphone and put in baby Steven. So everyone was like, "What?"
Wait, so she's holding baby Steven like this?
No, like just
like a sub sandwich?
Somebody took the whole scene where she's singing that song and like rotoscoped him over that, so she's just tossing around baby Steven.
Oh man.
Just look up baby Steven meme.
Baby Steven. See, I'm afraid of where that will take me though. I've seen some meme compilations that are not safe for work in the slightest, and I thought they were very funny. But I do enjoy diving into the Steven meme world every now and then. One of my favorites is one that Mackenzie actually showed at the panel. Have you guys seen the web short where Steven is playing the song he wrote, and it teaches you how to play the song? So it starts with like, this song's like really personal to me, and I wrote it when I was going through some hard stuff, and I hope you like it. And then he starts playing, but like the whole camera like shakes and turns red. And it's crawling in. And it cuts after like 2 seconds, but that's my favorite Steven meme. And the panel's turned to memes again. It's like 7 times. Over here.
What's your thoughts on Captain Lars?
Way cool. I like pink Lars even better than I like the original Lars. And the whole like space captain thing where they're like going on adventures with the off colors, I think that's baller. Right. We haven't heard from you as much. Let's start there.
Okay, going off the meme thing, what's your favorite Vine?
My favorite Vine. There's so many. I mean, my best friend and I, like, when we get together, we usually end up, hanging out for a while, doing our thing, and then at the end of the night, we just end up sitting on the couch watching Vine compilations. My favorite Viner is Thomas Sanders because he's like an amazing person. Just like off the top of my head, one of my favorites is they pour the water on the girl's face while she's asleep. She wakes up like, "Hello." Like slice of life finds like that are like genuine. They're not staged or like some weird skit. The skits they can be fun, but the weird slice of life ones are fascinating to me because it's like you captured like the perfect 6 seconds on camera to make this and nothing else. Right here.
What are some of the most impressive cosplays you've seen at conventions?
My favorite ever was, this was before like we really knew what Blue Diamond looked like. It was a 12-foot tall stilted Blue Diamond complete with the hood and makeup and everything, and it was marvelously done. And I got to talk to the cosplayer and thank them for being awesome. That was at MomoCon in Atlanta, the same one that we did in now last year. You had a question too, right?
Yeah.
What to you after?
So I was wondering what is some of your favorite guest interactions that you've done?
At a convention?
No, for the show.
Oh, with our guest stars. I just had an awesome one the other day, but I can't talk about it.
Gotcha.
He's in pretty regularly, but Zachary Steele, the guy who plays Ronaldo, is uproariously funny, whether he's like recording lines or not. Just very, very funny man. Who else? I did get to record with Susan Egan, which is really cool. She's not like a guest, but we did for, I think it was Storm in the Room, where like fake Rose and Steven are hanging out in Rose's room, and it's really like scary. We did that episode together, and that was cool to finally. I mean, we knew each other and had gone to conventions and had hung out, but we hadn't actually been in the booth together. I have never been in the booth with Tom Sharpling, who plays Greg, which is something we're trying to remedy before the show runs its course, because we really, that's a relationship that we need that for. Yeah. You were up next. Thomas is awesome. He contacted us. He was in LA to shoot some collabs, and was like, "Hey, Crystal Gems, want to come and shoot a Vine and some Snapchats with me?" And we goofed off in a public park for 3 hours. And it was awesome. We ended up shooting a video together later, which has not seen the light of day because of other stuff. But it was really fun. It was some music-related stuff. He's an amazing singer. If you guys don't follow his YouTube channel, he does some awesome covers on there. Very strong, like theater voice. It's amazing. Very talented guy, and very, very sweet. You had a question, yeah?
So when like when the everything's kind of like piling up and the stress is kind of high, what's like that one thing that you go to like relax for a minute? Like,
Thrash metal? No, I'm kidding. I mean, close. Like, I listen to a lot of like horrorcore, like Death Grips, and that helps sometimes. Baseball is my escape. It's unrelated to everything that I do in entertainment. Like, because some things they're hobbies, but they're also professions. Like, I can go down and write a script or write a song, but I start thinking about like, oh, what can I do with this? Like where does this fit into my career? And then I'm like stressing about other things. So I try to keep things that are like totally walled off from that are just interests and hobbies. And baseball is definitely that. I'm a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan because that's where I'm from. And they don't completely suck yet this season. So life is good. Life will not be good when they start to suck. Mm-hmm.
Video games.
Video games.
Which one do you play to pass the time?
Which one? Like, I only play one? Mass Effect is my all-time favorite. The trilogy. And then I just played Andromeda, which, despite the screams and cries, was not actually that bad. It was just sort of mediocre. But as a fan of the series, I really enjoyed it. I was addicted to League of Legends for a very long time and had to quit, which broke my heart. But I really enjoyed those times. Me and my best friends are super close to this day because we bonded over our competitive ranked 5 League of Legends team. I played a lot of World of Warcraft, Fallout, Civilization 5. Those are some of my favorites. Right here?
did you ever play the Steven Universe game?
A little bit. I got to demo it, and we did all the voice acting for it too, which was fun. The mobile game, the rhythm game, and the full. Is it Save the Light or Attack the Light? I confuse the two. Save the Light. Right, Save the Light. No, it's really cool. Like, we got our own little like Final Fantasy style RPG. I never imagined that we'd be like making video games for our show, but here we are. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hey. Question. Oh, I'll get to you after. Cool.
Okay, on the topic of video games, Horde or Alliance?
Oh man, I started Alliance, and then I jumped over to Horde after a while, just because I really love playing trolls and undead. It was just a matter of where my friends were. When I first made a friend that played WoW, he was a night elf, so I had to play Alliance. But I just love playing both sides because I have nostalgia for both now, and it's hard to like, just eliminate one, and that's like heresy in WoW circles. But if I had to like gun to my head pick one, it'd be Horde. But I'm pretty open to both. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for coming to Con-nichiwa.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you. My question to you. Sorry about the age thing from earlier, okay?
No, that was a high compliment. He thought I was
29.
29.
And he's 20. Can you believe that?
He's like, I literally got 16 the other day.
My question to you is, okay, in your voice work that you do you have a special preference on usages of microphones? Do you have do you have like the microphone in front of you? Do you have one that you use specifically for your voice work, like a Shure, Audio Technica, or what do you mean? What's your preference?
When I'm in the studio, it's obviously up to the network in the studio what we're using.
Okay.
But at home, my home setup, I used for a long time, a weird choice, but I used the Sennheiser 416 shotgun, which is, for those of you guys that don't know, it's the standard boom mic that people use on film sets, with the big fuzzy thing on it, but obviously without that.
What the fuzzy thing?
Just because I was doing a lot of promo gigs at the time for like, so I was basically the voice of a kids network. So like coming up next at 7 o'clock, The Land Before Time, and I would do that for them. I did that for 2 years, and I would have to do these really last minute sessions on the road, and I needed a mic that would drown out like hotel room noise and like traffic nearby, and the 416 does that beautifully. But these days, for my music demos that I record at home and my auditions, if I'm not on the road, I use an SM7. Sure, I swear by it. I mean, I did a shootout with 13 different mics at Vintage King in LA, and with my music producer, and the only two that came close were the Manly that we recorded my album on, at least all my leads, and the SM7. The Manly is the model I was looking at is like a $2,800 mic, and the SM7 is $600. Like,
now, the SM7, is it an original like mine, or is it the SM7B?
I think it's the B.
It's the B?
Yeah, it's pretty new.
It's the same thing, but the electronics are just a little bit different from the original, because I've got an original.
That's nice.
Again, welcome to Con-nichiwa in Tucson. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I love talking to you.
Take care.
That's fun. Yeah.
Have fun.
Somebody asked for a line, step it up and pass up. What do you say, Carmen or
Squirtle. I did water types except for Hoenn. I was a Trico guy in Gen 3.
Bulbasaur, yes.
Yeah. Everyone forgets Bulbasaur, guys. Bulbasaur is...
the first two gens so easily.
Exactly.
I know. The problem is... for the first two gens, I did Squirtle, Totodile, then Trico, and then Piplup, and after that, I don't care. I'm very anti-new Pokemon for a variety of reasons. And that's an unpopular opinion. Pokemon Go is cool. I took issue with some of the Gen 5 and beyond Pokemon designs. I felt like they weren't doing the franchise justice.
keys?
What's that?
There's keys. There's full console keychain.
A keychain? Oh, jeez. Yeah, the vanilla ice cream cone one did it for me. I was like, oh, I'm out. Can't do this anymore.
Well, you're about to say it was a brand.
I'll be
That's why. That's why.
Hey, better than a pile of goo.
Hey. Mark is awesome.
The new book is awesome too.
Oh, is that like a mega evolution or something? Oh, that's cool.
He has teeth.
I like the regional differences with Pokemon. I took issue with the mega evolutions. I was like, y'all are trying to ruin my childhood with these. Like, I just want to use my regular Charizard, my regular Blastoise. But overall, it's still important to me. I play Pokemon Emerald still all the time. It's a lot of fun. It's my favorite all time. Is that one? Right here.
Maybe a boring question, but what kind of sound software do you guys use for sound general?
That is not a boring question. For Steven specifically, I mean, most studios you're going to be doing voiceover at are recording in Pro Tools. For my music stuff at home, for just making demos and playing around, I work in Logic because it's a little more intuitive for like synthesis of stuff. If you're like recording live instruments, and pretty much all the work we did on my album at my producer studio is in Pro Tools because technically it's the most, in my opinion, for live instrument recording, it's superior. It just doesn't foster any creativity. So if you're looking to make song demos and not so much be putting together arrangements and preparing things for mixes, you want to use Logic or Ableton or something like that. Do you record?
I do sound design, but I was wondering, when you're on live sets, is it a different software or is it still the same?
Working on live sets?
Yeah.
That's a great question. My musical director, my drummer that's coming today, we're going to be running tracks on Pro Tools at the show tonight if you want to come out and check out how that sounds. It's interesting because, we play to a click, and for those of you that don't know, we play to a click that's in our ears. We have in-ear monitors, and it plays on the speakers and in the monitors the tracks from the song that we're not playing. So I have a guitarist, a bassist, and a drummer. So we take my lead vocals and all of their instrumental tracks out, but leave everything else in. So we play on top of it, and it fills out the sound. Not to give away my trade secrets, but that's a pretty big thing now in LA for a lot of bands, which I'm sure you know about that if you're in sound design. But for live sets, for bands, either Pro Tools or Ableton usually is what people go with. If you're doing like electronic music, it's all Ableton, except for a few outliers, from what I've heard. Does that help?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Windows, Mac OS, and Linux.
I use Windows and Mac. Logic is only on Mac, otherwise I would have been on another program by now. I use Mac for creative stuff and on-the-road stuff just because MacBooks are like so nice for traveling. And then I built a gaming PC a few years back that's getting a little old, but it still runs stuff nice. So I use that for like writing because I prefer using like Microsoft Word or WordPad over whatever god-awful text processor Mac has. So different things for different things. I'm not technically proficient enough for Linux, I don't think. Favorite salad dressing? Literally just balsamic vinaigrette. I'm super vanilla. Anybody else? In the back?
Do you do voice, you get into
Yeah, the problem with a lot of anime gigs is very few of them are part of the union. So a lot of anime actors have to stay non-union to keep working in it. I've done one. I did a Studio Ghibli dub for The Wind Rises, that's technically anime, even if it's a Ghibli feature film. But that was union because it was through Disney, and I really enjoyed doing it. But unless there's like a shift in the trends for more anime stuff to be union, then it would be tough for me. But I mean, I love it, so I'd definitely be down. And I have a lot of friends who make a living off of that. Let's see, right here.
Top 3 favorite anime.
Top 3 favorite anime. Oh man, some of these are like super basic. Sword Art. I like it. On the other side of things, I really love Konosuba because it parodies Sword Art and it parodies that genre, and it's the funniest anime I've ever seen. And would I be bad if I said the original Pokemon, like the first season?
No.
I love that show. There's a website that like streams them. I don't even know if it's literally just the episodes. It's not like a streaming website for other shows, and they have them archived there, and I watch them. I've had the pleasure of becoming friends with Veronica Taylor because of the convention circuit, who played the original Ash, and she's a sweetheart, and it's given me a lot of insider information about the show. You had a question, yeah?
Have you watched Captain Marlowe?
I have not. I'm pretty underwatched on my anime. I've seen a lot, but like recently I haven't been able to just because I've been like watching a lot of movies because I want to start writing screenplays, and I'm super underwatched.
Because that's what like the whole Captain Mars is based off of.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh,
Like,
man.
It's the same outfit too.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
There's so much anime influence in our show, and I think that's why, anime fans have attached so much to our particular American show, because it really pays homage to that. Kind of like Last Airbender did. I really appreciate that show for a variety of reasons, that being one of them. And I got to work on Korra for a hot second, which was cool. There's a couple of guest voices, but if you've seen the whole show, the beggar in episode 3, or like the street kid that's like hustling them for information, like, nah, you can pay me a little more. Scoochie is his name, that was me. And then Tarlock, I played the younger version of him in the flashback where, I don't want to spoil it, but there's some like, their dad is teaching them to do some like really unethical things and to each other. In that was me, yeah. Yeah, that show got dark too, just like ours, as all good shows do. Haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, just talking to you, by the way.
Hey man.
I consider Steven Universe an anime, by the way. But anyway,
I consider Corrigan House an anime.
I was gonna say, I don't know if he said it already because like I said, I just got it. But what's your favorite episode so far? And did they tell you the entire story when you first started? Like you knew how it was gonna progress and all the secret stuff that everybody's trying to dig up?
As much as Rebecca had a plan for stuff, yes. And not all of it was set in stone, but she had a pretty good vision for the future, and at a certain point let us in on all of that, and it blew our friggin' minds, to put it lightly. So yeah, there was definitely some knowledge of what was coming, which is nice to have as an actor. Favorite episode to watch, like final product? I love Jailbreak. It's really like, that was the culmination of everything that our show does really well, coming together in one moment with Stronger Than You for the first time, and I can just look back at that episode and being like, that's where people like really latched onto the show emotionally and like as fans. And right after that episode came out, I think we were at San Diego Comic-Con, and we went from being on a guest panel the previous year with another show to having there's cosplayers everywhere, and we had to turn away people at the door. We already had 2,000 people in the panel room, and it was like, in a year after that episode had dropped, everything changed. And it bears personal significance as well as like plot significance to me, so that's a big one for me. Whose time do we have? Oh no. Okay, it's 2:28. Let's take 2 more questions, and then we'll call it a day, yeah? And then I'll be signing in the other room. I do play Overwatch. I only started like in the past 2 months. I main Pharah, a little bit of Sombra, and then I get shoehorned into playing support a lot, so Mercy. I was a support main in League of Legends, so that instinct has not been beaten out of me yet. So. One more? Right here. I mean, I want to be someone who can cross genres, like a Christopher Nolan type that has really been able to work in whatever he wants to work in. I was working on a sketch comedy project called the Zach Callison Show, which is still, I just got like all my material back, and it's like raw and unedited, and we were on hold for a while because I was working on the music, but that is not dead yet. I had been posting about it for a while, and then it disappeared, and people were asking about it, but sketch comedy is not somewhere that I thought I would go for a long time, and then I sort of fell blast backwards into it, and I loved it. So that's something I want to do. But sci-fi has always been hugely important to me. Movies like Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, The Martian was amazing, all the way back to 2001, and more hammy stuff like Star Wars. I really would love to do something in that like space opera genre. Yeah, great question. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming out. A couple orders of business. I'll be signing for like an hour and a half, I think, or maybe a little bit longer, wherever the autographs are. I haven't been there yet. I just got here. And then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to have my concert tonight at 8:30. And this music is really personal to me. It's really important to me. I would love if you guys could come out. I believe it's free with your pass and everything. So we're just going to be in here in this room playing a rock concert with my band. And I'll be playing my full album that has not come out yet. And the single is included in that's coming out in the next couple weeks. So you can be one of the first people to hear it. I think you'll really dig it. So see you guys at 8:30. Thank you.